previous minutes. If there's no questions or concerns about that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Sarah made the motion. Elijah?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
Akua?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye. Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, next is the policies. There's nothing under first read. Second read, we have D7, professional learning. Any questions on that? Okay, next is F13, students who are unhoused. Any questions on that? Okay, and the last is F17, pupil privacy rights, student surveys policy. Anything on that? I'll entertain a motion if there's no questions on those.
I make a motion.
Devin made the motion. Elijah?
Aye.
Cool.
Aye.
Devin? Sarah?
Aye.
Rachel? Agenda preview and prioritization. Is there anything we need to move around?
No.
Recognition of visitors. Don't see any visitors. Okay, moves us right into school spotlight. Nate?
Okay. Well, thank you for coming to Cold Hollow. Courtney's going to call up a video we're going to show real quick. I was going to have students come in, but then I left them off the hook, so they're not coming in. But what I'm going to hand out, make sure I have enough, is just a few of the highlights that's going on in Cold Hollow. We're doing, right now we're in the middle of a comprehensive local needs assessment.
Thank you.
And one of the things that we have to do is make sure the size, scope, and quality of our programming is up to par with state regulations. So every one of our programs has to either have Tier 2 IRCs, which are like LNA, CDL, gamma logging, whatever they have a list of things that they call Tier 2, or college credits embedded in the program. Forestry, for some reason, has to have both. So this just shows you our programming and the Tier 2 IRCs. The difference between Tier 2 and Tier 1 is Tier 1's like first aid, CPR, AED, bloodborne pathogen, student mental health. They get those as well, but those do not guarantee a higher wage upon applying to a job, whereas the Tier 2 do. So this just is a quick rundown of our programming and either the Tier 2 IRCs and or the college credits that are embedded in the course. So, you know, if you look at business leadership, you'll see that you get up to 9 or 7 college credits. Forestry and Natural Resources is one of those 4 credit classes, not both. Medical careers, you can earn 12 college credits. And this is on top of the dual enrollment credits students can earn at high school. So high schools pay for 2 college classes. So kids can really be, if they come here, they can really be leaving with, take medical careers, for example, 18 college credits already, so that are transferable. So that's one highlight. The second part is our student survey. That's last year's, and this is this year's. And you got the parent survey, but you did not get the most recent student survey. And this is probably something that we're the most proud of at Cold Hollow, because we're basically 3 years running. And I'm not going to go over every single one of these. However, I will, and is our video ready? Okay, perfect. So we have, right now we have about 122 students coming through here. Some aren't here every day because they're co-oping. But this is an anonymous survey that they take every year. I think there was 119 responses on that one from last year. This year there's been 99 responses so far. We're still trying to get the other 20. But some of the highlights continue to be some of the first questions. On the second page, my teacher treats me with respect. We have 100% of students said yes, they get treated with respect here. My program teacher teaches my classmates with respect, 100%. And if you go through all these questions, you will see that the culture that we create here, the safe environment, the respect, those things we are doing. We're not perfect, all right, but we are pretty darn close in the eyes of our students. The staff took the survey. Parents, you have access to the parent survey so far. That we've got, I want to say like 22 responses from parents, so we're still trying to push that out there. And when the students from the high school that don't attend have to take the survey as well, so I'm trying to get those as well. But anyway, we're very, very proud of, you know, again, you can see the same results and the other the other 2 years data is in our main office. So that is just, again, something that we're very proud of the culture here. And Will Cribb, who is a Nicola Cribb's son, is a aspiring videographer, I suppose. And he's looking to build his portfolio. So he was talking to Brenda one day, and Brenda's like, well, why don't you come in and do a promotional video for Cold Hollow Career Center? So he came in and did our promotional video. I showed him a few others that I'm like, here's some others, what other schools have done, that are very high professionally done. And he's like, I can do that. And so we have a 3-minute, and he's doing program level ones too, and he's trying to get some more footage. But we will turn it over to the promotional video by Will Cribb.
What I like about Cold Hollow is that it's different from regular school where we're always doing stuff on paper, I guess. We get to use our hands a lot more.
We're not stuck in a classroom, we get to go outside.
Some things that I like about Cold Hollow is how hands-on it is.
I like that it's like we're already like working out in the real world and they put a lot of trust in us.
The teachers they'll respect you more than in regular school if you respect them.
I love that we get treated like adults. I feel like I'm getting prepared for the real world.
It helps us learn what we want to do when we grow up.
What makes Cold Hollow meaningful to me is having that independence and being able to work on myself as a person instead of being another face in a school.
I think it's setting you up for a little bit of everything actually. Like you learn some skills that are going to be important for your job in the future, like employability skills.
For my future, I hope to become a physical therapist one day, so I am using Cold Hollow Medical to help me prepare for the college that I'm going to have to go through. I'm going to graduate with a lot of college credits that I'm going to need to go through the physical therapy degree, so I'll be able to work in the hospitals and medical field right out of high school.
It teaches us a lot about like simple things that we're going to need. Like leaving here, even my first year, I could probably just like go into any dealership and do like little things and like oil changes and stuff.
They teach you like real world stuff and employment opportunities.
It's really a great opportunity to see new job opportunities and get out in the real world and not really like sit in a classroom all day and learn about the real world. About every day for forestry, we're out here doing either the sugar bush or helping split wood.
We always get different offers for us to help out the community, and normally we take them. It's just always to help out schools.
We spend most of our week working with other people.
Yeah, working with kids of all different ages and abilities and stuff like that.
What I like about Cold Hollow compared to other high schools is the class isn't really a class, it's more of a friend group that helps you learn.
And I think everyone's pretty involved. It's not one person in or one person out. We're all doing this together.
Really being a career-driven person, this is the perfect fit for me and what I want to work on.
Really good job.
Yeah,
So, that is my highlight. Cold Hollow Career Center in a nutshell,
Wove
under
this-
15 minutes.
You wove the students in.
I did, yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Any questions?
Nice job, Nate.
All right. Thank you.
On to Morgan, who's not here. I know there's a couple motions in there.
Yeah, so there were 2 bids for the Sugar House. So I think you have those. Are you gonna walk them through these?
Sure.
Are these like packets?
Well, so the first one is the bid. That's it.
Okay. So these are all going to more, is what you're saying?
Those are all, no, those can all go to everybody.
Okay, can I
And
have a
so,
copy back this way?
I didn't know
I'm
you
just
had that.
confused, thank you.
There's only 2 bids. The first one is one bid and it was not very detailed, as you can see. The second bid is from CK Construction. There's 2 numbers in there, one for a different siding, but we want to go with CK Construction. They put together a kind of a better bid package. The first one is around $295 and the second one's just over $3. So it's a much better price tag than building it on site. Vern is confident that any of the things that are missing will still stay under the proposed budget that's in this year's budget. And depending on the weather, they might be able to start sooner than spring. We're looking for a motion to award CK Construction with the bid. It's in the agenda with, Morgan put it in the agenda. Is it part of the agenda?
Just.
Or you want the bid itself? I can set it up.
Yes,
Okay.
just so Elijah can
Okay, so that's if we could.
if you have it. it's-
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now.
So this is the upgrade. Which one are you looking for? The one with the upgraded composite and labor upgrade?
Most likely, because we were looking at doing kind of a concrete a little higher and then wood, but he mentioned that this composite, even though it's more expensive, will last longer in the long haul. So, we're looking for, again, I don't think it's going,
It's about 10,000 more than the other one.
yeah, it's kind of 15, yeah. So, and again, that's something that if what Vern mentioned was if we are over and anywhere else, we could always not do the composite and go back to the board and back, regular board and back. But he does not anticipate that. And Vern spoke very highly of CK Construction, so that was good to hear.
And say again what the other one came in at? You got
275.
Okay.
Yep.
So 295 was the first one, and then 304 was the.
Yeah, both from CK Construction. Yeah. And the first one from BT, I think it was BTL. I think between Morgan and myself and Vern, didn't like not a lot of detail in there.
No, and that was, I was wondering too when I was
Yeah.
reviewing it, because I think,
Right.
so wondering about detail, and I guess I was disappointed that there wasn't, because
Right.
it was a more local.
Right.
They're at Richford, right?
Richford or Bakersfield, yeah. I think that's Chuck Jarvis. Yeah. Do you live in Richford?
That's who?
Yeah, it did say, yeah, Richford. Chuck.
Gilmet Road, Richford.
Yeah, Chuck Jarvis. Charles Jarvis.
Oh,
He just-
okay.
he just went-
Yes.
He just went out on his own, he did some work over at, Central Office, yeah. But we like the fact that, CK included some of the potential engineer drawings and permitting costs that, may or may not have to be incurred.
And Nate, you're thinking the second bid of the 304 for them, right?
Yeah.
Second bid.
Yeah. I think it'll look better, and especially the deal that we've got with Lapierre, them giving us such a deal on equipment and then bringing in people. We wanna make sure, it definitely looks nice for the people they bring in as well. And we'll be bringing in community members too, but.
The select composite, the siding is.
Well, I have a sample of it, if you wanna go grab it.
No,
No?
that's all right.
It's just it looks like the board and batten, but it's.
Is it press board composite?
Yeah. I think so.
Okay.
It's supposed to last forever. I don't think it can last forever, but.
All right, any other questions on it? Concerns? Is everyone okay with the 304, 574?
I think it sounds like a good investment.
I definitely think we should be going composite rather than boarded up. There's a lot of maintenance to it.
Yours, always. Alright, if there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion to enter a contract with CK Construction for the construction of the sugar house for Cold Hollow career pending a bid waiver, right? Is that the one we're looking for?
Yep.
The bid waiver?
Yes.
For the Agency of Education. Need a motion for that.
Make a motion.
Sarah made the motion. Elijah?
Aye.
Akua?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
Richard? I'm an aye.
So the second part of this is when you go into a construction project, we generally set a limit for what either the principal or the director, and then in this case it would be the facilities director, can approve in terms of change orders. So as you're going along with the project, there'll be decisions that need to be made along the way, and both Nate and Vern will know clearly what the budget is. So the proposal is to have you grant Nate the authority to sign off on change orders of up to $1,000, and anything above that, up to $5,000, would Vern could have the capacity to do that, and anything above that would come to the board.
Any discussion on that?
I'm good.
Okay, Devin made the motion. Elijah?
Aye.
Akua?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye. Aye.
Richard and I, I'm an aye.
So the next piece is about the wood chip boiler at Richford High School. So the first step in the project is we're expecting that the total price is going to be over $400,000. So you need to be able to approve the criteria for the bidders. So Morgan sent you the PDF of the pre-qualification criteria for the Richford High School wood chip project. So if there are any questions about that, or if people want to make a motion to approve that.
Okay, any other discussion on it? Okay, Devin's made the motion. Elijah?
Aye.
Akua?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Then should we give a little background? So I'll give a little background on that.
Sure.
So, that project, that wood chip factory, I think was built probably when Nate was assistant principal there. And Al Perry and, I know Connie Pratt, they wrote a grant for it. Well, the windows in that building were terrible, and you would have to wear your winter coat upstairs, and so we put in new windows, and when the new windows were put in, the wood chip part of it was oversized, and so it started to melt the apparatus. And so that's why they can't use it, because it's oversized and there's too much heat. So what they want to do is to sell the main component and to right size it. That's why. Okay. We haven't been able to use it for the last several years since the window project.
It's the opposite of the problem that you usually have in Northern
Because the building's too efficient.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have funds set aside for projects such as this, right?
I don't know I think he's getting some grants towards this. Vern's pretty savvy.
He wrote a grant through Efficiency Vermont, so I think that's where it's through. So they wrote a grant, so they think it'll primarily be funded for that, and then afterwards they'd like to try to sell the one that's too big for us.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
You do have some facilities budget in there, in your budget though.
Yeah, okay. I thought that's what we were going from, but the grants even better.
We like grants. He's very savvy at getting them.
Anything else from Morgan's?
No.
Okay, all right, I do, Lynn.
Okay. So, Courtney, did you take it from my existing board notes or from the? From what?
Your existing.
Okay, so you got the updates that I put in today?
No.
Yeah, okay. All right. Sorry, let me just get there. Because I'm not going to be able to read that, I'm realizing. Okay, so for personnel, Kelly, there was one that I forgot to put in my notes. You can help me with that. I think I've got it. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but there is there are two actions. One is only one action. Julie Cattell, assistant principal at Enosburg Middle School, has decided that she's not going to return next year. I think that she's done a fabulous job. I'm very appreciative of Julie's work. I think she's got young kids, and I think might not be the right time. So we're hoping we can find a way to keep her in FNESU because she's really been a great asset. So I would ask that you move to accept her resignation.
Anyone make a motion? Accept the resignation. Okay, Rachel's made a motion. Elijah?
Aye.
Sakua?
Aye.
So? I'm an aye.
The next is just informational. You don't need to act on this because it's mid-year. Alexandra Gourlay, grade 1 teacher, resigned effective January 12th, 2024. Next on there are the remaining open positions that we have in FNESU. A lot of those we are shifting on to the 24-25 school year at this point. So in terms of the assistant principal search, I would like to do a process similar to the process we did with Julie, and have, if there's a board member or two that would like to be a part of it, have the committee meet, and then they can make a recommendation. They'll prioritize who their finalists are, and then I'll consider bringing them in for a final round with me, and then just make the recommendation at the next board meeting. Hopefully, if we can do it that quickly.
Anybody volunteer for that?
Yes.
Anybody else?
I'm sorry, who's going?
Devin.
And hopefully somebody else.
I'm happy to help. I just wanted to see if anybody else would have the opportunity. Okay.
So Devin and Nakua? Oh,
I think
Rachel?
Rachel?
Devin and Rachel?
Kua said she'd help if you needed to.
Yeah,
Do you
for
want-
sure. I was just saying,
We
I'm
could-
happy to help, but if you need.
We could do 3 without it being a quorum. It just will be a large committee if we do all 3 of you. Are you good with that?
Why don't you just put me as a backup if something
Okay.
comes up? Yeah.
Let's say Kua backup. Okay, perfect. So we'll get started, look for something from Courtney or I. The difficulty is there are like no days in February. That's why she's laughing, because they're booked. But we've got it, it'll be, I think it might be posted now. I think the staff was told today. So I think it got posted this afternoon. So we'll send you an email with an update on that timeline. I have a teacher, Ashley Chamberlain, from Richford Elementary School, and she's making a request to the board for, she's used all of her leave time, so she's asking for you to approve up to 3 unpaid days in case they're needed between now and the end of the school year.
Any discussion on that?
That's what we've done in the past, correct?
Correct.
All right, Devin made the motion. Elijah?
Aye.
Aye.
Sure.
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Thank you. I have nothing under student. There's a lot under legislative update, but I'm gonna try to be brief. PCBs, I'll talk a little bit about what's happening with PCB legislation. So there was money that was set aside last year through the legislature. It was around $30-something million, $33 million, maybe something like that. And that was intended to help with testing and remediation efforts in schools that were identified as having elevated levels of PCB. So what's happening now is that several schools have been identified in the state that have PCBs, and they either have There's some schools that it's a really horrible situation. They've got wings that they can't use with kids. There's one school in particular that's running 100 of the fans that are super loud and generate a lot of heat in their buildings, to their air filtration fans, and those are serving just as a mitigation measure for the short term. So the problem is there already is not enough money in that PCB fund to be able to pay for the remediation of all of the PCBs that have been identified in the schools. So they're going to focus on just the mitigation measures for now, so paying for fans, paying for testing, things like that. This is what's in the bill. They're going to prioritize money for systems that have elevated PCBs in the immediate action level. For us, so far, knock on wood, this board hasn't had to deal with PCBs. The other board has 2 schools with PCBs. We've got 2 classrooms that we aren't able to use at Berkshire Elementary. And we're able to use all the spaces in Sheldon, but they're at an action level, but not an immediate action level, so they're still usable. But it's basically everything in the envelope of the gym. Not everything, but most of the things in that envelope of the gym. So because they're identified, we will eventually have to remove the PCBs. So now it appears that it won't be funded to actually take the PCBs out unless something changes. So there's an effort in the legislature to pause the testing, because if we don't pause and then get thoughtful, there's a connection between PCBs and the conversations around school construction aid, because there are many schools in the state of Vermont that have years of deferred maintenance because there's been no state aid for construction since 2006. So they're trying to figure out how they can bring back state construction aid, and they're realizing if we're just paying to help schools when they're dealing with these PCB projects, but we're not being thoughtful about state construction aid at the same time, it's like we're chasing our tails. And there are also conversations, I know this is not popular, but with the conversations that are coming up about ed finance, there are also conversations about some of the super small schools in different parts of the state of Vermont, and having the legislature really look at like how many schools can we afford to operate in Vermont. So that is what I'm hearing, is that they should be having those conversations. They should be talking about the school construction aid and then the PCBs. So people are advocating for a pause there. I don't know what's going to happen with that, and I don't know what's going to happen with the school construction aid, but there are 2 things that I am following pretty closely. Mental health is something that continues to be of interest to the legislature. I don't know what their action will be. I've been advocating with people that I've spoken with, and I was supposed to testify tomorrow, but I can't actually tomorrow. But what we've been advocating for are levels of support above the school, because we've been building our mental health capacity within our schools, and we've been building our alternative programs. And what we're finding, and what other of our partner agencies are finding, is that when students get to the point where their needs are so complex that they're in crisis and they need an emergency placement, there's no place for them to go. There are 2 places in Burlington. One, I think, serves 5 students, the other serves 4, and they're open like 5 days a week for one and 4 days a week for the other. And then the only other spots in the state to do emergency placements are in Brattleboro area. There are 2 programs down there. They're all full. Everything's full. So when you have a student who's in crisis, no matter what the issue is, they're put on a wait list and they come to school. So what we're advocating for is, like, that's the breaking point for us. When kids have that level of need, we don't have the ability to serve them. And some of these are scary situations because it involves students who have either had suicide attempts, suicide ideations, in some cases homicidal ideations, and then a lot of other things that could be putting them in that kind of crisis mode. So there are other needs as well. Like they're not residential placements enough in Vermont. We're sending almost half the students who need residential placements out of state. So we could advocate for that, but I think sometimes what happens is people go in and give 1 million suggestions for all the things that they'd like the legislature to do, and then it's hard for them to take action. But what I will continue to tell them, and what my colleagues are continuing to tell them, is please don't fix mental health by giving schools more mental health money. It just isn't, it's not helpful at this point. We need our mental health agency to be properly funded, and that needs to include some levels of really intensive care for students who need it. So we'll keep pushing on that. I'm going to save the most complicated one for last, so I'll come back to ed funding. Use of public funds for tuition. And that's something that's been a hot topic in Montpelier for a couple of years now. And what people are advocating for is that if we're spending public dollars to pay tuition for students to attend schools, they should have to meet the same criteria that schools have to meet. They shouldn't be able to discriminate against kids. They should have to accept students who have IEPs. So there are a lot of factors that go into that. So that's something we'll continue to watch. That's a really important piece too. There is a bill around CTE, and I will admit that I haven't spent as much time on that bill, and Nate and I have had lots of conversations about it. If there was a study done, what was the name of that study?
The APA study.
There was an APA study done around how we fund CTE programs in the state of Vermont, and I mean, it looked at more than funding. It also looked at governance, and it looked at some of the other barriers that exist for kids being able to access CTE programs. And I think that one of the things that I'm hearing a lot about is a common statewide calendar. For Nate, he has it pretty easy compared to other tech directors around the state because he serves 2 high schools generally. He has some students from Northwest Tech, you have some from MVU and Fairfax. So we do a shared county regional calendar, but there are some days that we write waivers for. So what would help our CTE centers, we've got like Green Mountain Tech Center, is that one the one that has like 13 different?
There's a few, Essex, Springfield, some have 13 high schools that they're serving with 13 different graduation requirements, 13 different calendars.
So this bill is taking up all of that. Like, how can we be flexible about graduation requirements so that that doesn't create a barrier for kids who want to come? To talk about a better way to fund CTE centers so it doesn't, it's not something that, there are some systems where it feels like a loss if they lose their students to go to the CTE center. So they're looking at all of those pieces. So we'll report out if there's action on that. There's a literacy bill that has got strong traction, based largely in the science of reading and more intensive professional learning for educators at all levels. So that's something that we will continue to watch, certainly. There is a bill around open meeting laws. The way I understand that bill, though I have not read it, is that it would allow boards to, I believe, continue to hold virtual meetings, but I think they could be fully virtual. They're spending a fair amount of time hearing testimony about banning flavored tobacco products in the state of Vermont. I already mentioned the school construction aid, and then education funding. So, some of you heard me speak about this at the SU meeting, and some of you, I think 3 of you didn't. So I'm going to give you a high level of, and try to define the problem. So Act 127 passed, and the intent of Act 127, we've been talking about this for a couple of years, is that historically disadvantaged districts, it rewrote how we fund public education. So it essentially recognizes that some students are more expensive to educate than others. So students who have an IEP, students who are English language learners, students who live in poverty, there are factors, weights that are assigned to those students. And a lot of research was done to try to create more equitable resources for schools and systems that are serving serving students. So essentially, the intention behind the law was to be able to provide more equitable resources for students who've been historically disadvantaged by the previous ed funding system. And for us, it provided us a lot of opportunity. So the whole intention was to be able to add opportunity without it negatively impacting your tax rate, because they shifted to what's called the long-term weighted average of your students. And that took into account the change in the weights. So what they put in there was a 5% cap for systems who were losing tax capacity. We gained tax capacity because we have a lot of students, because we serve so many of our students in poverty. So some systems lost tax capacity, and the intention in 127 was to protect those systems from a heavy burden in year one by giving them, as they started to reduce their spending, a 5% tax rate cap. So their local residential tax rate couldn't increase by more than 5%. And then in the law, there was, if their per pupil education spending went above 10%, it triggered a review. And then they risked at review, if they reached that cap, if they put things in that were there were 3 factors, and it was kind of that like it was their choice. It wasn't something like they had 30 extra high school tuition students that they hadn't planned for or something like that. Like they chose to do something. It wasn't something that they had to do. If they couldn't meet the metrics for why their spending increased so much, they could lose that 5% tax rate cap. The problem with the way that law was written is they didn't anticipate that for some districts that lost a lot of tax capacity, once they drove their budget to the 5% tax rate cap, they recognized they had a lot of space between the 5% tax rate cap and that 10% per pupil spending cap. So their tax rate could be $1.38 pre-CLA, their homestead tax rate could be $1.38. They could add $1 million and their tax rate would still be $1.38. They could add $2 million and it would still be $1.38. The largest example that I've heard of was over $6 million. So from the 5% tax rate cap to before they hit that 10% threshold, they could add $6 million without it costing their community any more money. The problem with that is it didn't cost their communities any more money, but the only systems that could pay for that extra were the systems who were not at the tax rate cap, like us. So we were supposed to get additional capacity without additional tax rate burden. But their spending, the money they were obligating, could only be paid for by communities not at the tax rate cap. So what essentially happened is that they did a survey of the field about a week ago, and when that data came back, every system in Vermont, because of the added spending, they predict, so that this is complicated, I know it's complicated, Vermont funding system is incredibly complicated. That yield number, that when we were doing budgets with Morgan, that gets set based on the December 1 tax commissioner letter, and the tax commissioner sets that yield based on a projected spending amount that business managers have to send in November. So they did a survey to see how much higher is spending, how much higher is it anticipated to be. And what they found was that spending was anticipated to be like $40 million higher than they anticipated. So what that did was it drove every system in Vermont to the cap, okay? So now the yield can no longer get any more money to pay for the obligations in the ed fund. So when the legislators found out, they have been doing some quick work. So the House Ways and Means Committee and the House Education Committee have been working incredibly hard since this came to light to figure out how can we create a path forward that helps to ease some of the transition burden for some of those systems that are losing a lot of tax capacity. And how can they support historically disadvantaged districts so that they're not going to end up losing their opportunities because of the tax rate cap that's impacted by other spending. So right now, the work that's happening in the legislature, they're proposing that they're going to take that 5% tax rate cap away in favor of, I just sat on a committee, if anybody is interested in watching, it was the House Ways and Means Committee, and they met at 1:15 today, and then again at 3:05. There's a little break in between, and they really got into a complex description of how they're going to propose to fix this. So they're giving districts the authority to be able to delay, is what they're proposing, their town meeting vote and rewarn their budgets, so that if there are some systems, if you lose the cap, right? Like if you added money between 5% and 10%, and you did that because you knew that your community wasn't going to have to pay for it, but if you lose the cap, you might make a different decision when you know there's a direct one-to-one relationship between what you spend and what your taxpayers are going to have to pay for. So systems have the ability to go back now and pull that money out and rewarn their budgets. So what they're proposing is that there'll be some money set aside so that they can pay whatever costs it will cost districts to have a second vote, because it'll be outside of town meeting day and printing, all those kinds of costs. So this has created an enormous, I don't even know how to describe it, a stir, I guess, in the state where it has people on both ends incredibly stressed. It has people in the middle incredibly stressed, and people are looking at how's this going to impact our community. I think that what I will continue to try to get people to do is rise above your community and look at how is this going to impact taxpayers around the state of Vermont. Because what I didn't say earlier when I said all districts are pushed to cap, if nothing changes, everybody's at cap. We have obligations in these budgets, and if they pass, the only other levers that can be moved are the non-homestead tax rate and the income sensitivity formula. So that would have a double whammy for poor families, right? Because if the rental properties taxes go up, they're going to raise rents. And if poor families own property, the income sensitivity formula change will impact those families. So in my mind, the way they're trying to correct it now is a better way to correct it, because it isn't a cap, but what they're doing is creating a 5-year phased kind of a if you were in today they were describing it, and I haven't had enough time to really dig deep, but if you're I don't want to use the right language, I have it in my bag. If you're impacted by, let's say that historically in FNESU, if you think about the education funding system in Vermont as like a whole pie, right? What we used to get was this much of the pie, right? Now, the way they're thinking about this, we're getting 8% more of that pie than what we got before. But there are some systems, because they lost capacity, are losing like 40% of what they used to get out of the pie. So the way they're proposing that they're going to correct that is that they will offer a tax rate discount in years 1 through 5. So for example, if you lost 13% of your pie, in year 1, you will get 13 cents off that tax rate, okay? So nobody's at cap anymore, there's none of that protection there. But if you lost 13%, you'll get 13 cents savings on your tax rate as a cushion. And that will reduce over the next 4 years. So the next year you go to 10, and then 8, then 5, then 3. So this was just introduced today, a cents reduction versus the 5% tax rate cap. So it's got a long way to go. I don't know where it's going to end. People are definitely really anxious about this because it's having a big impact across the state. So it'll be fascinating to watch how this turns out. So the next time you get the legislative update, which I would say would come within the next week or two, turn to the pages that are talking about education funding, because there's going to be some fascinating information there. Anybody have any questions about what I just shared? Easy stuff, right? So next is annual meeting prep. So Mort, is there anything that you want to say about that?
How many, is anybody else going to go?
Sure.
Is there any other board members?
What's the date? 22nd or 26th?
22nd or 26th.
Yeah.
22nd is at Richford High School at 7. And then the 26th is at Enosburg High School at 7.
So Rachel and Mort said yes. Can you go to either?
I can go to the Richford one, yeah.
So that's the 22nd?
Yes, I can do the 22nd. Yes.
How about you, Akua?
I definitely can't do the 22nd because I'll be traveling, I think we're looking at. But I might be able to do the 22nd. Put me down for the 22nd.
Oh, wait a minute, it's the 26th and Monday.
Can you do the 26th?
I can do the 22nd. I
Can't do the 26th?
No.
You might be on your own on the 26th. Elijah, are you able to go to either of those?
I am not.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it falls on winter break, right?
Well, actually, did you say the 26th, Devin?
I said
The 26th.
is the 26th in Richford?
Yes.
The 26th is in Enosburg.
That's Enosburg. And I have a doctor's appointment that day, so the 22nd would be best, wherever that is. Richford?
Yeah.
And if you're putting that in your calendar, our open house is the 22nd, so it's coming first, and then
Okay. So the 22nd is your annual meeting.
Right.
The 26th is your informational meeting. Okay. So we'll connect you. I'm assuming you're gonna do the majority of the talking this year. We'll have Morgan connect with you, and any prep that you want, can reach out to Morgan or I.
Sounds good.
I'm going to ask under the school year 24-25 contracts for the board to grant me the authority to sign the employment contracts and issue them in April.
Entertain a motion. Okay, Cool made a motion. Elijah?
Aye.
Devin? Sarah? Rachel?
Aye.
I'm aye.
So I'm trying to include data in your board packets related to your board monitoring plan. So in your board monitoring plan, one of your goals is around academic proficiency. In particular, it's around K-3 literacy and students reading on grade level by the end of grade 3, 100% of students. So what I've given you, and I know it's very small in your packet, and this is from the fall and winter administration of the STAR reading, is the very first one with the colorful graphs. So on the far left, that is first grade, winter, first grade, I'm sorry, there's not a comparison for first grade. I think there was a data. Can you see it clearly, Courtney? Let me see if I can blow it up.
It says first winter and then it goes second.
Right. So there was the first grade we don't have fall data on because there was a misunderstanding and a lot of the first graders took the early literacy instead of the STAR literacy. So you only have winter data there. But then when you start after that first bar, that's each grade level. So it's second grade fall, second grade winter, and then so forth through 8th grade. So you can see that the blue is exceeding the standard, green is at the standard, yellow is nearing the standard, and red is below the standard. So I chose to report out by looking at the total percentage of your students rather than the number of students because your student numbers fluctuate so much from week to week and month to month as your students move in and out of these schools. So this is based on 100% of all second graders. This was your percentage proficiency. And then on the bottom, it is comparison data between fall and winter for math. So at the board level, you get this data and it's related to all of your commingled data. So this is all of your elementary school data's merged and your middle school data's are merged here. The principals can look at their individual data, and I know that their teams are looking at that data, and they're making instructional decisions based on what strategies and what skills students are not yet proficient in. So I see a lot of that happening in schools. I also break this down, I haven't yet, because this is kind of hot off the press data from the end of January, but I also will break this down school by school to be able to look across the supervisory union at improvements in growth related to this data. Are there any questions?
What's the gray, blue, and yellow lines?
The what?
The gray, blue, and yellow lines are there, the points?
You know, that is a very good question. Those have to do with, I don't completely understand them because I didn't print that as part of it, but it has to do with 25th, 50th, and 75th national percentile, I believe.
Oh, I wasn't sure if it was like a state average or something.
Oh, I think it's a national percentile thing, but I can look into it and let you know.
That's where I was going to. I was wondering if we have any benchmarking against the state and go nationally for this data. I'm imagining that line probably is state since the top right hand corner does say star state benches, maybe. But it'd be good to know.
Right. We can keep going if you don't mind, and I'll look while the principals are talking for theirs, and I'll try to let you know which of those is which. I have to make the report again, so it'll take me just a minute.
Okay. Anything else?
That is it for me.
All right, on to the principals. Kelly?
It's all informational.
Beth?
It's all informational. One addition, Matt and I have the opportunity to have a free presentation at our schools called Better Choices or Making Choices. Yeah. They contacted us and it's about, I think it's about drunk driving. The presenter spent 8.5 years in jail for killing 2 people when he was drunk driving. And he talks about what that's done to him emotionally, even though he's out of jail, but he's still in jail, and talking to students about the importance of good decisions. So, Matt, yours is when?
Choices matter.
Choices matter.
Yes.
And yours is when?
Ours is tomorrow.
Tomorrow, and ours is Thursday. So that isn't in my report.
Is that for all grades?
Yes. So there's a 45-minute presentation, and then there's some interactive components afterwards.
Ours, we're just planning on for the high school.
We're planning on everybody. That's great. 6:30, yeah.
Okay, Enosburg Elementary.
So I should have mentioned that Jen is sick, and she was not able to join us tonight.
Okay, Matt?
So the musical is not happening on the 9th and 10th. It's happening on March 15th and 16th, so that's a change. I also talked to Vern. As you've noticed, Vern is super busy with a lot of projects, but I did talk to him about the snack shack, as I mentioned last month, it needs some serious repairs. He said he doesn't want anyone using it until it can be stabilized, so the boosters are very eager to get that resolved before the spring. And Vern said he'd be looking into if we have other alternatives. And also the boosters said that that they might have some community folks who'd be willing to volunteer or donate some things. So we'll see what happens there. I haven't heard back, but actually maybe I'll email her tonight. Thanks.
Nate?
The only thing that I have for an action item is a side letter, asking the board to approve, my teachers to attend the state CT conference in lieu of 2 in-service days on August 12th and 13th. Because it's 10 days prior to the first day of school. Last year we had full attendance, so we're hoping to, and didn't that JP this year?
So you can't force them to start school earlier than 10 days prior to the first day. So if Nate uses these as in service, we have to have the side letter.
Any other questions on that? Okay, entertain a motion.
Make the motion.
Sarah made a motion. Elijah?
Aye.
Akua?
Aye.
Devin? Rich?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
And then the only thing is, February 22nd is our open house, so free door prizes, we'll be engaged in a scavenger hunt around the building, students will be here, it'll be really fun time.
What time is that, Nate?
4 to 7.
4 to 7.
4 to 7, yeah.
4 to 6:45 because then he's going to kick everybody out to go to the annual meeting.
True.
And also the annual report is out, just put my personal plug in there.
And it looks wonderful.
That was a ton of work. Courtney did a good job pulling that all together. So Akua, I found it. It is, the yellow is national 25th percentile, and it has to do with the dots that are connected to the lines. So when I scroll over it, I could see numbers that reflect that percentile. The gray is 50th, and the blue is an average score.
Okay.
Dot.
So national. Is there any opportunity for benchmarking against the state results?
So not everybody in the state takes this one. This is something that we've chosen in FNESU. They're state benchmarks, like this report is a state benchmark report, but this isn't a common assessment across the state. I can look at it in a variety of different ways, from percent mastery to national percentile.
There is one report, I don't think this is it, that will compare how they will do on the cognitive. Like there's a predictor, right?
Is that in Renaissance, Beth, or is it in
I
Edgeminer?
think it's in Renaissance. It's in Renaissance. And I'm pretty sure it did cognitive. I know it did for SBAC. But there's a predictor, like if you take it in the winter, how this student would do if they took the Cognia or the national assessment of that.
Can you show me how to get that the next time I go?
Yeah, it's on
to you?
Renaissance. I have to have help. One of my teachers helps me because I don't go in there.
I can't go into Renaissance.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get data.
The teachers are very good at finding the different reports, and they look through them, and there's some in Renaissance that are not in EduClimber, and I think that different teachers have their favorite reports to give the information they want.
So EduClimber is like our management system, so it pulls all of the data out of like what teachers are reporting on report cards. That all gets put into here. Anything that's in Power School gets put into here. How they do on the STAR assessments that are given in that Renaissance tool, that gets pulled into here. So I'm doing it from this main data system, but I don't have, if I have access, I don't know that I have access to Renaissance. So I would be interested just to see.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I could do it as a whole.
Mary Ellis is really good with Renaissance.
Yeah, talk to Mary.
Yeah.
There's some, I know that it's an underutilized tool because every time we learn something and bring it to the staff, like there are so many different ways to report out and to look at individual kids, to look at different cohorts of kids, to look at different content areas, skills, comparisons, and I know that we haven't fully utilized it, but we're always looking.
This is I think year 2 with EduClimber. Is it 2? So it's year 2 with EduClimber because we've never had a system to be able to collate data like this automatically across the supervisory union. All of our schools were using things like Google Docs with all of their data they were color coding data. It was useful, but it was labor intensive, and we had no way to pull anything from it. So the only thing that we could pull from was at the state level for the standardized assessment. So we're all still learning how to navigate all these tools, but it's very useful. Like we can look at data around attendance, math, literacy.
How old's that data? Is it fairly?
This is new. Like this was just in the month of January, I believe, was your winter assessment. So this is real time. And I could look after grades close for the semester, we can pull it out at the standard level. So this is something that I think is grown significantly, how we're using it and how I think schools are using it to not only predict, because I think that's a piece of it, but also to intervene in the classroom and outside of the classroom for kids who need it.
I know it's always been an issue getting the data back.
Oh, okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because that is something that I didn't mention, but in our annual report, you will not see anything about last year's Cognia because I still can't talk about it. It's still embargoed. So it's not released from the agency, and we're about to roll into our next assessment window. So it's nearly a year old at this point. It'll probably be a year old by the time it's released. So it's not useful. I could have put in there 21-22 SBAC results, but it didn't seem wise to do that. That was right after the pandemic, and you can't. What's that?
I said we were just getting out of remote learning.
Right. It was right after the pandemic, and it's apples and oranges, because if I put the SBAC assessment in, then they would be trying to compare 2-year-old data next year to 2-year-old data that we would then be waiting on the third year's data. And what at least now what we'll have, if they can turn around this next Cognia quicker, I don't know what's holding it up at this point, but well, at least we're looking at this last year's Cognia as this is our baseline. There were problems with how the technology worked. There were lots of problems with the administration and accessibility of some of the accommodations that were in that remote or that virtual test. So that was our baseline. We're hoping that the rollout will be smoother this year, and then we're going to be looking for growth in patterns and what our students are doing and how they're doing.
We were just able to release it to families, so individuals could have it, and we can't even upload that into EduClimber or anything right now. So the data is not friendly, and everything that we did, we had to almost like hand do to look at the data.
So is there any reason why we couldn't use this as an alternative temporarily, especially since STAR is a national assessment?
Could use what?
The STAR data?
But we are using it.
Oh, you are? I'm talking about for the annual report. And
I put that in there.
Oh, you did.
I put pieces of the STAR data in there. I put pieces of the STAR data. We put pieces of the phonological assessment data for kindergarten, grade 1, kindergarten, I believe. So we put some pieces in there. We pulled out some pieces of the STAR to show some growth.
The STAR only goes up as far as 6th grade, right?
No, it goes through 12th.
Oh, that's 12.
Yeah. I didn't pull that for this month.
So I didn't jot that down quick enough. Can you tell me one more time the colors?
I need a minute because I jumped to a different.
Sorry.
I think she said yellow was 25th
percentile.
Yeah, yellow's 25th, gray is 50th, and blue is average score.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else on that? Great, so board business. Next meeting's at March 12th at Richford High School. And any future agenda items for the board?
So I followed up after our pre-meet this month with Nate, and he's going to contact Black River to come, we're hoping in March, to talk with you, show you the designs, walk you through it, and answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, is that been designed with the potential for the Monty House, or is that just going to be a block?
I don't know where we are with that. I mean, we're asking for that,
Right.
but I haven't followed up with Morgan or Vern. Do you know if he's drawn anything in there yet? Could you ask that when you call him? Ask him to come. Okay.
Anything else, anybody? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Deb made the motion, Elijah?
Aye.
Cora? Sarah?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
I'm an aye.